This video is going to provide some information on how your Teacher Academy portfolio will be organized. So in your portfolio handbook, pages 3 through 9 will be pretty helpful in getting the initial organization set up. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and show you some visuals to sort of help you better understand how everything is set up. So basically you're going to have a 2-inch binder that has a view cover and spine so that you can put a title page in the front cover and then your personal information on the side of your binder. You'll be using page protectors, you'll need divider tabs, you may want to have a decorative border paper and things like that, but that's optional. Now in my class, everything will be provided for you, so you do not need to have those things unless you decide that you would like to get your own decorative border paper. But again, that's not absolutely necessary. So this page here, which is page 3 and it goes on to page 4, will give you some basic information about how the portfolio is organized. But I'm going to show you a few pictures just to sort of give you an idea of what that looks like. So to begin with, your portfolio is going to have a title page, and that title page will be placed in the very front of your binder as well as on the outside cover. And it'll look something like this. So it'll have your name, the name of the school, it'll say Pre-Professional Portfolio, and then it will say Teacher Academy of Maryland. And then within the binder itself, you're going to have 3 main sections. So the first one is personal data, the second one is in-task standards, and the third one is appendix. And so within those 3 particular sections, you're going to have different kinds of information. So here's the section for personal data. So in there you'll have your philosophy of education, your resume, unofficial transcripts, if you want to include letters of recommendation from your various teachers, and then your internship evaluations from senior year. So those are the only items that are going to go into the personal data section. I'm going to skip the in-task standards section for right now because there are some things that will go in there and it's a little bit more complicated than section 1 and section 3. So section 3 is your appendix, and here's information about that. That's just going to be a place for you to put in items that do not necessarily fit within the in-task standard sections, but they're important to you. So there are things that you might want to include, like photographs of work, photographs of yourself at internship. If you want to include awards, like if you have honor roll or perfect attendance or an athletic award or something like that, you might want to include that stuff in there. If you want to include work from other courses, your academic courses that you feel are exemplary, you can put those into the appendix as well, because we want the portfolio to not just reflect your work in the Teacher Academy program, but overall. And this would be a good place to sort of collect all of that really important information together. So the middle section of your portfolio is focused on the in-task standards, and that is where a lot of our coursework comes in. So as I mentioned before, the in-task standards section is the second section, but then that gets broken down into different subsections, and then those subsections contain different kinds of information. So the first subsection of the in-task standards is the learner and learning category, and that's going to focus on standards 1, 2, and 3. So in that particular category, you're going to have artifacts and artifact reflections that relate to those different standards. And then you're also going to write a description of each one of those standards. The second subcategory under in-task standards is going to be content knowledge. And this one is going to focus on standards 4 and 5. And so again, you'll write a description for each one of those standards, and then you'll also have artifacts and artifact reflections that show that you meet those particular standards. The third category is going to be instructional practice, and this one shows your knowledge of in-task standards 6, 7, and 8. So again, you'll do descriptions, artifacts, and artifact reflections. And then the fourth subcategory for that section is professional responsibility, and that focuses on standards 9 and 10. So now we're going to take a look at some visuals to sort of help you break down a particular subcategory so you can get a feel for what would go in that particular section. So let me find those images. All right, so here we go. So within a particular section, you're going to have some different descriptions. So for instance, in the learner and learning section, you're going to write a full description of what each in-task standard is about. So here you have the full description of in-task standard 1. So you'll be doing that for each of the standards for each of the sections. So there'll be a total of 10 by the time you're finished. And these will be spread out over the 4 courses, so you won't be doing these all at one time. So in addition to the in-task descriptions that go in there, you also have what are called artifact reflections. And so this is an artifact reflection for a specific artifact, which is the Piaget lesson plan. And this is something that you do in the child and adolescent development class. So in the learner and learning section, the very first artifact that you have is going to be the Piaget lesson plan. And so you'll have all of your materials associated with that lesson plan, but then you also have to write a description and a reflection for it. So this is the example of that particular description that this student wrote. And then these are some of her actual documents that are her artifact. So this is her lesson plan description. And then you have some of the materials that are associated with that particular lesson plan. And this is going into a different lesson plan that she has, or I'm sorry, a different activity that she put in as an artifact. So ultimately, what you're going to end up having in your portfolio are going to be several different artifacts and reflections that go with them. So if we look here in the in-task standards section, you'll see that although it's broken down into the 4 categories, you're going to have a total of 16 artifacts. So you're going to have 4 artifacts for each category. And some of those will come from each course that we do, and then some of them will come in your internship. And so some of the types of things that might potentially be included as artifacts are things that are listed here. So class assignments, lesson plans, letters to parents at your internship, assessments you create, observations that you might do. There's all kinds of different things. Now, in some cases, I have already determined some different activities that we'll do that will definitely be artifacts. And then during your senior year, you'll start picking and choosing some of the ones that you want to be artifacts from your internship. So ultimately, in this in-task standards section, you're going to have these items, ideally. You'll have the in-task standard descriptions, then you'll have the reflections for your artifacts, and then you'll have the artifacts themselves. And as much as possible, you want to have student samples to go with your artifacts once you get to internship. So that's sort of the basic organization of the portfolio. You have your 3 main categories: your personal data, your in-task standards, and then your appendix. And then within the in-task standard sections, you have 4 subcategories, and that's where the bulk of your materials are going to go, is in that in-task standard section. So you'll be having a total of 10 descriptions, 1 for each of the standards, and then 16 total artifacts, 4 in each of the categories. So 4 in the learner and learning, 4 in content knowledge, 4 in instructional practice, and 4 in professional responsibility. So if you have any questions about how the portfolio is set up, please feel free to ask, view one of our sample portfolios, or go back and rewatch the video. Thank you.